All right, welcome back to the weekly Skytles Community Space Crypto conference call. How do we describe this? Let's say,
Differently every week.
yeah, depends upon who's on and
That's right.
what the topics are.
Mhm.
And we have hedge fund manager trading with Cody, fresh off, I believe. Oh, and he has a starship with him.
Yeah, did you see it blows out butane.
Oh, nice. I'll let the kids play with that.
No. I ordered that from SpaceX about 8 or 9 months ago. They apparently they can launch faster. They can build real starships faster than they can build butane starships.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that a cigar lighter?
It is. I think that's what it's supposed to. I haven't used it for that purpose yet.
That's pretty
It looks.
cool. Now
it
I
looks
want
like
one.
it would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. I got it last week. I meant to show it last week on the call. Anyway, yeah. When you were introducing me, I thought it'd be sort of fun to throw that out, show people.
Thank you. And now rocket pilot something or other, engineer of
Cody
the
Willard.
cigar ship. So yeah,
Cigar ship. There we
there
go.
we go.
SpaceX wasn't clever enough to come up with the cigar ship name for that.
Yeah.
Starship. Anyway, can you
Dan
finish?
Geraci, CEO of Freefall Aerospace, and are we still the president of the planetary or chairman of the Planetary Society as well? How many titles do you have?
Just a couple.
Okay.
That's all. I try to keep it, manageable.
Do you rotate them every year, or
No.
And Bryce Smith, hedge fund analyst, and we will allow more as we see them in the green room.
And Cabana, who are you?
Oh, I'm just one of the contributors to this weekly
You're not
call
gonna
that
give
we
yourself
did.
any title? Like we got all kinds of titles running around.
Crypto investor.
Okay.
I mean, that's a start. I'll figure out something.
Aficionado.
There you go. But I'm more than that. I mean, aficionado, I'd probably be getting wrecked way more than like other people. But yeah, getting in on bonk at the top or something.
Yeah, there you go. So speaking of bonk and everything else, cryptocurrencies in the stock market sure did act poorly so far in the last 2 days of this year's trading. And even on Friday last week, Bitcoin was up 5%. All Bitcoin related stocks were down. It's everyone is impatiently waiting for the SEC to maybe or maybe not, but probably approve the new Bitcoin ETF from BlackRock, Blackstone, Black Mineral, Black.
Careful.
Anyway, which one is it, Bryce? BlackRock?
BlackRock.
Yeah. Which one did the commercial that we laughed at?
Blackstone.
Blackstone.
How about Grayscale?
Grayscale. Ooh, nice.
We need the colors. Yeah.
White label.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, look,
I think the move was this morning was like that article or tweet from the block that was like, oh, it's not going to get approved. And of course, with anything with crypto, people just panic, sell first, ask questions later. And that was that, I think.
And frankly, I'm not sure it will. There's supposed to be a deadline next week, I think, that the SEC is proposed to give a judgment. Frankly, I can see them kicking a can down the road as they are wont to do. And furthermore, it's not a sure thing that they're going to approve it when they finally stop kicking the can down the road. They've been told by the courts they need to take a serious look at it, but they're not saying we are going to force you, the SEC, to do this. Well, hey, nice to see you, Asher Stelton. Thanks for being here.
I will promise you that there are a whole bunch of securities lawyers right now poised to file A, B, or C, depending on what happens.
That's right.
So, I think part of what the SEC is probably, given up any hope of avoiding is the fact that there is going to be a rush based solely on what they do and don't say and approve and everything else. Because if there isn't any way to get to market with something, people are going to do it, and then they'll just be in the game and move from there as things evolve. But there's a lot of people that have been waiting a long time to just cash in and get something out there, and then there'll be a little feeding frenzy on all the new filings. So,
Bryce, explain why Coinbase might not actually benefit from even being the custodian for this ETF.
Yeah, one of the arguments is that people use Coinbase because that's one of the only ways to actually buy and hold crypto, and it's one of the safer ways. But if now you can, through your Schwab brokerage account, buy a BlackRock ETF that actually holds, real Bitcoins, you don't need Coinbase anymore. Yeah. So there's a counter argument for Coinbase actually being bullish for Coinbase.
We just had a discussion, a debate, even on Trading with Cody's chat room. Cabana, I'm not sure if you were in. I think you were in there today.
I usually have it open in a tab, but I was not active. Yeah.
All right. Well, in there today, the discussion was: will the Bitcoin miners benefit or be hurt by the halving process for Bitcoin? Now we're going to shift gears from the SEC ETF approval thing to another Bitcoin potential catalyst. That is the halving process, which makes the miners, if you, not just publicly traded miners, but if you even just, you got a server in your closet, like people in Hollywood 5 years ago were showing me at their agency, well, like if you're mining Bitcoin, somewhere in April, May of this year, there's going to be so many Bitcoins that have been mined that the halving process happens. And what that means is it gets twice as hard to mine a Bitcoin as it had been. And in my mind, that means miners are going to have problems because it's like having your business cut in half. Like your operations get half as effective as they were on that day.
Yep, and that's where you hope price goes up as a miner, because to offset part of that cost. But like you said, I mean, if it gets cut in half, then ultimately you're going to need the price to go to 80,000 at some point, which I certainly think it can do. But I think, as you see with every cycle, certain miners who just don't find it, profitable or, anything like that, they'll just fall to the wayside, and you're going to be left with like these huge complexes who can actually afford it, probably.
Yeah. And retail people. I mean, if you're not a publicly traded company or you don't have other people's money and you're just got a couple of servers in a closet mining, you might only get one a year instead of one a month at some point, but you'll still, if you're a retail investor, you keep the question. I mean, it really does get to the point where if the Bitcoin price doesn't go up enough, the energy costs are not going to make it, the energy costs will be prohibitive to bothering to even mine a Bitcoin. So the prices have to go up, or the energy prices have to keep coming down.
Yeah.
Throw a solar panel on top of your house, that will help.
Yeah, I mean, we go through this kind of every cycle, and it's lasted, I don't know how many halvings to date, so I don't see any reason as to why this time would be different, but who knows? Bryce,
will you Google how many times has Bitcoin halved so far?
Sure.
Speaking of which, I don't remember doing it for this reason, but the same concept is why the SKTLs rewards, the SKTLs space debris cleaning cryptocurrency that we are all here as part of, the reason it gets cut in half every year, the rewards get cut in half in year, is to make it deflationary over time, make it harder, and also because we assume that in 10 years, it's not going to be a big deal for people to be going up into launch. And, and at that point, we would end up printing the way the SKTL tokens get mined to remind, too many minds in there. The way that we create more SKTL space cryptocurrencies is whenever there's a successful space action, such as sending satellites or human beings into outer space. And as it gets easier and easier to do that, we make it harder and harder to produce. We cut it in half every year. Bryce, how many times has Bitcoin halved?
3 times.
Now this will be the 4th. And then will it continue will it do that always as it gets harder? And when we're at like There's going to be 21 million total Bitcoins minted at some point, and we're
Like
at
2040 something, maybe. I'm not.
Yeah. So does it get harder every year? Like as it gets closer in 2040, will they have again, and there'll only be like 10 Bitcoins left to mine?
Google's Bitcoin halving schedule.
Dan
There
Geraci,
will be 32 Bitcoin halvings.
32. There will be 32. Thank
So
you,
it
Bryce.
says.
Okay. So yeah, at some point there'll be like 100 Bitcoin left to mine, and they'll have it again.
Yeah.
That's when the miners will really be in trouble. If they haven't kept their Bitcoin and Bitcoin price didn't go up a bunch, the miners are in trouble. Full disclosure, I'm long Bitcoin for 11 years now, and I am presently short a bunch. I'm betting against a bunch of the Bitcoin miners, although I did sell a few of those puts today because those stocks are down 30% in 3 days. Sanatsi, hello. Sanatsi, how are you going to introduce Sanatsi this week, Cabana?
What's that?
How do you introduce? We didn't introduce Sanatsi.
Oh, the most humblest smart man here.
That is, I think that's great. Yeah. Dan's not exactly out there pounding the table.
No, this is true.
Either, though. Bryce and I probably bring more ego to the table than Dan does.
But Dan's like the king of space, and
yeah, that's what I was going to say. So next week, by the way, guys, next week we will have these people at Field of View. Here, let me just share my screen real quick. Where are you guys? Share screen, present, share screen, Field of View, share. We will have the people who published this newsletter presenting next week. Here's the email that they sent to me the other day, and I was annoyed because I hate when I get an email that I didn't sign up for, and they obviously bought my name somewhere, and I almost wrote back a nasty email, but then I was like, you know what, it's space. Why don't I invite them to the space debris call? And I was like, hey, I'll be there, and Dan Geraci will be there, and whenever Bryce and I email anybody who we think probably doesn't know who I am, we usually throw my Wikipedia page because then I look like I'm somebody. And look what they wrote back. Dan is a great person, and I'd be happy to join next Wednesday's meeting to better understand the purpose. He couldn't come today. But I thought it was I was telling my wife last night, Dan, like everybody I know who knows you is always like, that Dan Geraci's awesome. And I agree for the record.
Who are these people?
Yeah. Bryce Dabbs at Approach Venture.
Oh, Bryce Dabbs. Oh, God, Bryce is a wonderful guy. Yeah, absolutely.
See,
yeah.
He knows everybody.
It's the circle
Bryce,
of wonderfulness.
Well, no, Bryce is former Air Force. He's done a lot of things to help companies write contract proposals, SBIRs. A lot of that very well connected in Department of Defense. And just a great guy. I've known him for a few years. He's a great guy.
Actually, now that you mentioned that, that was also when I was reading. Then once I saw it was a space newsletter I'd been sent, I was like, let me just read this real quick. And in there, he talks about how much money they have helped startups raise over the years. And that's also, that got me interesting. Here he goes. Like in fundraising, since in the last year, they helped companies from pre-seed to Series B raise $33 million. At any rate, Bryce is expecting to be here next week, and we will have. I think we all enjoy whenever I get a guest, random space person to show up. So
sure, absolutely, he's a good one.
Speaking of space, Cabana, we've done some crypto news. Let's hit some space news. Can you pull up the space.com? I knew a guy who quit his job as an anchor on. Might have been Fox News. It might have been CNBC. I don't remember. He quit his job as a real TV anchor to become the CEO or one of the executives over at space.com. This is like in 2005, and it was too early. He ended up leaving and getting back into TV space news. But anytime I go to space.com,
well, the guy that got involved originally was Lou Dobbs.
You know what? This was someone that worked with Lou Dobbs. Now that you mention it, Lou Dobbs, I forgot that.
Lou Dobbs got involved with Space.com when it was formed. I remember he was speaking at some event I was having somewhere, and we talked about Space.com. It had just started up, so that's why I remember that.
Let's go to spacenews.com, Cabana. That looks like it'd be a better fit.
I like meteor showers.
Well, that's actually, while we're on the topic, is that tonight? We should totally do that. Bryce, if you were here in town, we could pull out my telescope and go out there and look at cool stuff and a meteor shower next time.
Let's talk about the SpaceX direct to cell phone launch.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. They're getting after it right away, so it'll be fun to see how this develops now, because everyone's got a plan for this. There are a lot of companies doing a lot of work on the transmission side for this market, but this is going to be, not that no one has known it's coming, but this will be a game changer now for people. Many people won't even notice it, but when we go direct to cell phone for everybody, it's going to be pretty wild. We just skipped over the whole I need a satellite phone market that came and went in about 4 seconds when this started to become a real possibility.
So without Starlink, and therefore without SpaceX, none of this would be mainstream, right? I mean, it would still be like Globalstar and Iridium satellite phones and things like this. But what SpaceX does, because they launch every other week, if not every week, they're planning to do it almost every week this year. If without it, this would not happen. But as it is, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, if you know about this, but T-Mobile will be the exclusive partner with Starlink on this satellite to cell phone service. And as I understand it, out here in New Mexico, for the first time ever, I'll be able to drive from rural New Mexico to Albuquerque and not have 20 to 30 minutes of dead zones about 4 or 5 different times on the 2-hour drive, which is a game changer for me. I will leave Verizon. I've been a customer at Verizon since 2002, and I will leave 2001. I actually got my last 3 digits of my phone number are 911, and on 9/10, 24 hours exactly before the planes hit the World Trade Center, I got my Verizon smartphone, but my Verizon cell phone at the bottom of the World Trade Center on 9/10 at 8:54 a.m. Thank goodness it was the day before. At any rate, I've been a customer of Verizon for 20 years, and I will gladly cancel it tomorrow if I know I can call, and when I drive to my golf course 30 minutes away, actually be able to have a phone call with my buddy Zach Datacash.
Everybody will have a solution here shortly, every carrier. So
how is Verizon and AT&T going to compete with T-Mobile and Starlink?
There are other constellations that are going to be coming on stream. I'm not saying it's going to be tomorrow, but T-Mobile spent a fortune to make sure that they got out in front of somebody for once, because they're good fast followers. But I think this is just the beginning. Just the beginning of this.
Dan, do you believe that AST Mobile will actually pull it off? That's AT&T's partner.
I have no idea. I have questions about AT&T, and I've not been a fan for a while. So I don't know if this is just 2 subpar, players getting together or what. But I just don't have a lot of confidence in just AT&T and how they've handled all of their consumer markets of late. So who knows? I've got a lot of confidence in Verizon, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, Verizon is a great company. I totally agree with you on that. Like I was a telecom analyst as my first job on Wall Street, analyzing stuff, and so I followed the telecom industry for many years. And Verizon, if nothing else, they do a great job building their networks and delivering what they say they're going to do. I mean, the telecom business is very capital intensive, and the margins have not been great. And they haven't. Their stock never goes up, but they pay at this moment probably a 5% dividend at this price, and they're
a classic utility. They're a classic utility stock.
Yeah, man.
They'll get rate increases when they need them. They'll do what they need to do. It's
and
their
then
infrastructure.
Verizon's at least adventurous enough that they'll go out and buy Yahoo, or they'll do some stuff that's not necessarily core to telecom, but they're not AT&T where they go out there and they leverage the entire balance sheet 3 times over to buy a content company called Warner Brothers.
Yeah, no, they're not looking to commit suicide. They're playing it smart. I mean, I remember when they tried to bring Verizon into Canada, and the Canadian cell phone carriers went ballistic with full page ads trying to block them because they were going to change the market. You got these ads in a country of 38 million people with Verizon talking about their 160 million subscribers and how they can bring prices down in Canada. And all of these Canadian companies were throwing up because there was no way they were going to compete. And they were able to
keep them out.
Get some blockage because the Canadian market's very anti-competitive for anybody coming in. They are brutally, self-interested as a market. They don't allow competition whatsoever.
Who are is it Rogers? And who's the other one?
Rogers is a big one.
There's one more that's a big one. You said it, I know it.
And yeah, I know. And I'll think of it when I'm not trying to think.
You didn't know I was going to be talking about Canadian telecom when you got on the phone call today.
No, I've had enough of those. So.
Yeah. Will you go back and see let's see if there's any other cool news we should mention here?
Yeah, the only other thing is this, we're once again the continuing dominance of SpaceX for launches. India, you'll see an article in there, has selected them to launch this big telecom satellite. And, and part of it was just the simple fact that the one they're launching weighs more than the capacity of their own rocket for launching. So, again, I think when push comes to shove and people are sitting around and it's going to be, okay, so who are we going to launch with? The preference is going to be, let's go with the safest, cheapest option first. So
seems like a business decision most people would make. I'll go with the cheapest, safest guy. Yeah. That's the same could be said of the Tesla car, frankly.
Well, when you read all these articles about how many EVs are just sitting in lots, piling up, because the automakers are having a little bit of trouble. Build it and they will come didn't work, nor did build it and we'll tell them to buy them. That didn't work either. So it's going to be a challenge. There's going to be I could see a big clearance sale coming with a lot of losses. For the automakers.
One of my predictions for 2024 is that GM and Ford will throw in the towel on their EV idea. That at least the vast majority. I mean, they both have promised to invest like $30 or $40 billion each into making EVs in the next 3 years, and they'll cut that by 2/3 or more, and then roll out some EVs in 2027 and.
They promised that to Washington to get everything they needed, and now they're praying for an election so that they can undo what they did. Because there's no way they're going to invest that kind of money when there's no return in sight. And I'd almost be crazy to say that there should be one EV manufacturer that all the industry gets together to build a line of vehicles from. Frankly, this redundancy of the U.S. auto industry killed it once to the delight of Japan, and frankly, until it's a big enough market globally, they can't even justify it for the U.S. because they're just not getting the uptake. They're not.
Yeah.
And
no, they're not. Have you, Bryce and I? What is it? Probably 8 months ago, we went and test drove 5. I've had a Tesla for 4 years. Right now, I have the Model S. Freaking love that car. I'm thinking about getting the Cybertruck. I've got an order in for one, but I have the Plaid, and I'm not sure I want to give up my Plaid. But regardless, we went and test drove like 8 different electric vehicles, and we hated all of them. I mean, the Ford Mach-E was like using a 2002 Windows computer. It was slow, cumbersome, nothing made sense. You're like, why is it doing this? I just want to look at a map. I got to go through 3 screens. It was so stupid. And then the worst one was probably that Volkswagen ID4.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. They were like, after the guy who drove us around didn't know anything about it to begin with. And then when we got done, we're like, hey, can we look at the frunk? We pulled open the frunk. It had like 5 different things. Like it had to put oil in something. I was like, what are we doing here? Shocker that they're not selling these things.
Oh,
How about Rivian? Did you all do a Rivian?
We've test drove the Rivian, and other than the Tesla, it's the only car out there that, and I shouldn't even phrase it that way. It was awesome. We loved the Rivian. It was not, the software is not quite as snappy as the Tesla, and the full self-driving is not nearly up to the level that Tesla is. But man, the interior is beautiful and nice and cool, and I really liked the Rivian too.
let's see. This is Detroit doing the Me Too, creating a subpar product, thinking that they're going to compete just because they're Detroit, and that's what happened in the 70s. When, for those who were alive then, when Japan ate the U.S. auto industry's lunch. And almost completely put it to bed. And now it's just a different story. It's the industry paying lip service to a policy and a strategy and putting something out there for people to buy so they can check the box.
Yeah.
And that's what you experienced. And Tesla started out being only about EV. And I think there's something to be said for, what business are you in? And I don't know. I think it's going to be a house cleaning on this. And to think they could have done this the right way when Tesla was alive and was pushing for this.
10 years ago, they could have started doing this, and they could have spent a lot more. We're supposed to be doing a space call, but we're doing an EV call. For just one more comment, if I could. I'm still amazed that Mari Barra, the CEO of GM, has her job. If for no other reason, she should have been fired for putting $2 billion into Nikola to get 11% of the company. And then 3 months later being like, maybe not. Oh, and now Nikola's worthless. So, she could go buy the whole Nikola company right now for the same $2 billion she just wasted. In fact, what is market cap of Nikola? Bryce, what do you got?
Looking it up.
Market cap Nikola.
859 million.
Yeah, you could take that sucker private for less money than she bought 10% of the company worth. She needs to be fired. I'm sorry. And
it's on sale.
The guy over at Ford should be fired too, but for one reason. He's like, we have to redo everything, and we are getting our butts kicked by Tesla, and we better figure it out. Mari Barr is like, we've got it figured out. No,
Did she
Tesla.
at least get the souvenir truck that they pushed down the hill? Did she get that out of it?
Sitting at GM headquarters.
Yeah, they got that outside as a.
Okay.
No,
but the point is, Tesla is to the industry now what Japan was in the 70s. It's this existential threat that's kicking their butts, and they're going to have to completely rethink everything. Just like the government could have said, gee, we have to rethink the cost of launch. And they said, screw it, we'll just pay SpaceX to launch everything for us. Because trying to figure out the government launch model with ULA and the primes would have taken them 10 years. They would have spent, $50 billion and have nothing. So space is leading this change or revolution in manufacturing generally. And it's an Elon thing that went over to cars and it's going to continue to affect everything that he gets involved with. So we're talking space. We're talking.
Yeah, well, then actually, that's
the influence.
Exactly the point I was going
space.
to make. I was just to reiterate that point. It's like I don't want to be an Elon. What do they call it? A Muscovite? No, an Elon fanboy. Whatever. I don't want to be that. But it is true that
A Musk Maxi.
A Musk Maxi. Oh, I hadn't heard that before. That's pretty good. That look,
Musky.
the Starlink,
Musky.
SpaceX is by far the best competitor in its industry, leaving everybody in the dust. Starlink, a subsidiary of SpaceX, by far the best in its industry, leaving everybody in the dust. Tesla, by far the best in its industry, leaving everybody in its dust, in its Musk. I don't know. Forget it. Point being, it is pretty amazing how far they've all advanced. Sanatsi, last words, last comment. What do you got, sir?
Two things. I've been asking some of my friends about fully self-driving feature, and I can tell you that not everybody is really too crazy about or really wants fully self-driving feature, because people enjoy driving. So
I'm going to push back on that. No,
I'm just giving you some data points.
For old friends and stuff, that's true. Bryce's generation and kids below him, they're never even going to get a driver's license. These people are going to be driven around in 5 years. If you're turning 15 in 5 years, you're not bothering to even take a driver's ed.
Okay. My answer is philosophical. Humans. So I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you.
No, I can see that, though. I can see that.
I think people will always want to drive, but not most of the time. Most of the time, they want to just hop in a car that takes them to where they are going.
I can remember a cover of a Popular Mechanics magazine that one of my older brothers had, and I remember this from around, it was a 1958 Popular Mechanics, and the cover was a family on a highway sitting in a car with a glass bubble roof, and the four members of the family were all turned facing the middle playing checkers.
Yes, exactly.
And this car moving down the highway with other cars, and what they had was a guideline in the road that was keeping the cars on track. So it wasn't even autonomous to that extent back then that they were thinking. But it was talking about this happening in the 70s.
Yeah, they're a little early on that one, prediction.
No, but the point is, sure, autonomous driving's great when the fear factor is completely taken out of the equation.
It's not there yet, and I don't mean to say that it is.
Yeah,
but
no, it's not there yet.
Go ahead.
Let me tell one more thing. This is back to SKTL, because we wanted to talk about this last week and postponed it to this week. So I believe I'm looking at my notebook. 154,050 SKTLs. I think this is just for the since May, like 6 months or so. That really we needed to have those tokens. So we need to decide what we want to do, or if anything, I don't know. We need to decide what to do and put it to vote.
Let's do that here right now, and then we'll ask on Slack the rest of the community, the volunteers, to vote on it. As far as I'm concerned, look, what are we going to go back and somehow retrieve those tokens? It's a mess. Look, I think it is a mess. There was too many. There were a few thousand too many tokens printed because we did not have the rewards at the beginning of the year like we were supposed to. Actually, not even at the beginning there. In May is when that was. And I think we'll just let's leave it be, and then we'll come back and we'll do it from now on. We'll put that to a vote with the community, and if anybody has a vote against it, we'll open it back up to debate. But I would imagine all of us are going to be like, it is what it is. Asher, thank you for noting.
Yeah,
Asher,
that's
just
why I wanted, Daniel to be here, because
yes, you know what? We'll get Daniel here next week. Well, I will beg Daniel to come next week. I'll go to New York and sit next to him with a phone if I have to. Hey, will you pull that comment back up?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Sonazi, I didn't mean to cut you off. You got another comment about this?
He's frozen.
He's frozen.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we know we can't just, arbitrarily change the code that is deployed. That's for sure. But it's going to, I don't want to speculate about what we can do. I do have some ideas, but Daniel is the one who deployed the code. So we need to talk to him and then decide basically what to do after talking to him.
Okay, let's do that.
That would be better.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll get a hold of Daniel one way or another and get some more information about this. We can talk about it again next week and decide if we need to actually change anything.
Okay. And if you haven't voted, for SKTLs, please do vote.
Yeah, go vote for this month's total reward.
Yeah.
You do it inside of the MetaMask or whatever app you're using.
There's
Asher
a link. So
Stelton, thank you. Asher Stelton just looked. He notes that with 0.195 Ethereum, you can get 100,000 SKTLs right now. Guys, I own probably about 1.1 million SKTLs. And if you believe in the space revolution and you're worried about space debris, go buy some SKTLs. Tell your friends about the SKTLs tokens. They're available on PancakeSwap and any other peer-to-peer open network exchange. And we've done this thing right from the beginning. We've done it where there's no founders tokens. We didn't give any of the exchanges any tokens, and it's a free market. But it is a free market that's dedicated to cleaning up space debris, which if we don't do something about it, you're going to get taxed for it at some point. Let's make it profitable for us and space investors instead of another tax from the governments around the world. Peace, love, and happiness, everybody. Thanks for being here. Cabana, thanks for hosting. Dan, as always, thanks for giving us your wisdom and time. And Bryce, thanks for everything you do, my friend. Bye, guys.
See everybody next week with a guest.
Yes, next week with a guest.
Ooh.